Welcome to What's Your St. John's Story, a 30-minute segment sponsored by St. John's United, highlighting connectivity in our community through storytelling. I'm Rachel Simonson with the St. John's Foundation, and today we're talking about wellness. And St. John's has all kinds of wellness perspectives because we serve the arc of life from birth to death. And today we're talking about wellness at Mission Ridge and activities. We have our guests today are Bridget Shore, who is our Life Enrichment Coordinator at Mission Ridge, and Judy Frank, a resident at Mission Ridge as well. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll start with you, Bridget. Tell us a little bit about how you found St. John's and what you do at St. John's.
Okay, well, we'll back up to COVID. And I was a personal trainer at a gym, and I had my own business running karaoke and DJing, and all of my work came to a screaming halt. And I kind of had an identity crisis and thought, well, I'm going to have to really change what I do now. So I applied. It was 23 jobs, office jobs for that year. Nothing, because I didn't have, my background wasn't in that. And so I talked to my boyfriend, and he said, what about being a CNA for St. John's? They have a class there. And I thought, yeah, I could do that. I could just, change directions. And so I got online and I applied for the CNA class, I thought. So I got a call back, and this had been a year, almost a year of being unemployed. And I was feeling pretty bad about myself,
Yeah.
a huge identity crisis. And somebody called, it was Tina, and she said, hey, we're really excited to get your application. We would really like to visit with you. And I thought, oh, for the CNA class? And she said, no, for Life Enrichment and Wellness. And I said, I didn't apply for that. She said, but you did. And I thought, okay, well, I'll come talk to you. So I had an interview with Erin and Tina and the human resources lady, and I walked in the room and they were so happy to see me. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't, because my resume was all, well, what my passion is, honestly, and what my past had been, which is wellness, 25 years of experience in physical fitness and music, basically. And they said, well, we just think you're a great fit for this job. And I really thought I was on candid camera, because I thought this just doesn't feel right. Nobody's been happy to see me for a year. Oh. And I was about in tears when I left. I was that happy. And that's how I came to St. John's.
Well, how about that? You just never know what
No.
happens when you put yourself out there.
Yes.
Well, wonderful. We'll come back and talk more about what you actually do at St. John's in just a minute, but I'd like to give Judy a chance to introduce herself. Judy, you've been a long-time Billings resident.
That's correct.
And
retired music teacher, band teacher, my husband and I. And we'd been in our home for over 20 years, but there came a point when we thought, we're going to need to change. Our house had a lot of stairs, and that was becoming an issue for me. And there wasn't any choice for us except Mission Ridge, because they are a nonprofit. They study and practice three forms: the spiritual wellness, the physical wellness, and the social wellness. Yes, and the social wellness, which are really critical as you become more difficult to move around. It's so nice to have a community there to support you, not only through all the services that we'll talk about, but also through the contact of the social part of having a meal together, or sitting and visiting, or playing cards, or doing a variety of things. So we were very pleased. We've been there 8 years, and it's just been a wonderful experience for both of us.
Great. Well, I just want to remind people who are watching that independent living is just that. Mm-hmm. It's for older adults who are either looking for a more relaxed lifestyle so that they don't have to worry about stairs in their home, cooking every day for yourself, cleaning every day for yourself, yard maintenance and what have you. But you come and go as you please, healthy as you were the day you left your house, and you can actually walk away from your home and know that if something does happen, there's a whole staff of people there.
Well, one of the things we learned right away as we moved in 8 years ago is that there's an inside life and an outside life. And a lot of people feel that when you move to independent living, you're just going to be in this inside life all the time. But that's not true. We have the outside life that we still participate in, but we also have the opportunity to be involved in our community at Mission Ridge. And I think that's what's really important for both of us.
Absolutely. Wonderful. All right, back to you, Bridget. Tell us a little bit about how your background in fitness and DJ, karaoke, how does that fit in at Mission Ridge? Because boy, does it ever fit in, right?
It does fit in.
Yeah.
And so the fact that Judy and Warren have such a great music history was very appealing to me about them. So when they joined my class and started talking about that, that was great. But the wellness I've been involved in for 25 years now. And I have a passion for it. I just love the idea. One of my favorite statements is, move a muscle, change a thought. And it's a lot of times movement, especially to music, which I do teach Zumba Gold too. We have a great class for that. And moving to music will also it's great for brain chemistry, endorphins, dopamine, everything. But also exercising as a group is really good for any kind of endorphins are released because you have that group there. And I feel like the class that Judy's in, the strength training class, I feel like they're a group. They're a group. They care about each other. We have discussions, we work out, and people care about each other in there. And so when I came, I was just teaching strength and stretch and other things, but I asked if I could start a strength training class. And they said, sure, go for it. And it's been about a year. Mm-hmm. And people just kind of trickled in, and the group that I have, they're amazing. Just watching them get strong and hear about how the strength training has helped them to be able to do life better.
Very much so.
We'll talk about that in just a minute, but let's talk about what people usually think about in a senior living environment. You talk about strength and stretch. Mm-hmm. So many people think about, maybe older adults aren't doing as much exercising and strength training and stretching exercises. But strength and stretch really is a low impact, seated.
Yes.
For the most part, but just, again, moving that muscle.
Moving the muscles. Mm-hmm. So the simple strength and stretch is the arthritis approved strength and stretch. And so we move people through all the different planes of motions in a gentle way while we build strength. And then balance. So there are classes specifically for strengthening and stretching, and then this strength training class that Judy does is also stretching, but we use free weights, we use rubber bands, we use rubber balls, free weights, and ankle weights sometimes, and then we work on balance. We do like a chair scramble where they stand and sit and trade chairs in the circle. So it's just all of those things that help them to have balance and flexibility and strength.
I'm going to ask Judy, what have you seen over the last year? Because were you doing activities like that prior to Bridget coming?
Not for many years. We had done it before, but it was several years ago, so I hadn't done anything recently. And when I joined the strength class, I was amazed. I was overwhelmed at first because I thought, this class is crazy. I can't do this. I mean, free weights and up and down, and no, you don't sit in the chair. But I found out that building core strength, and I actually have biceps, which I never had in my entire life from lifting weights, was a significant factor when I took a fall this past January. I stumbled over my feet and went flat down on my face with both my arms out. And I did not break anything. I got, well, bruised and all, but I didn't break anything. And I attribute that to Bridget's class, because working with strengthening your core and your arm strength and your wrist strength was amazing to me, because I came out bruised and battered, but I didn't break anything.
Right. Yeah, and I was standing right there.
Yes.
And I saw you go down, and when you talk about face plant,
It was
a face plant.
Yeah.
And I thought for sure that you would be spending weeks and weeks in rehab, physical rehabilitation. But Monday morning, you were back in your apartment and
Yep.
back playing the piano
Right.
on Sunday, the day prior to that. So, Bridget, what do you think it is about the strength training that helped Judy sustain herself through that ordeal?
Well, Judy is, first of all, she's extremely committed to the class, and she comes very consistently. And we did something that I'm pretty much a stickler about is core strength. Core first, then we work on the other things. And so her core strength is very good. So that helped her to be able to brace, and her shoulder strength was incredible. And so when you can strengthen the muscle around those joints, it does help prevent worse things like breaking. And so it's very important to have that strength. Just the lifting weights and using your wrists like that strengthens those wrists and forearms, so when you catch yourself, you don't have a fracture clear up your arm. Just things like that. It's not, it does depend on, of course, any kind of osteoporosis, osteopenia. If you have something like that, that's a different story. But when you don't, and you do have strong muscles around those joints, it helps support. So if you do, heaven forbid, fall, then you have less of a chance of breaking something.
So tell me a little bit, because I grew up being allergic to exercise, but I do know the power of that and how important it is to move. And I made a commitment, almost 20 years ago, to getting out and moving my body every day. And I think it's made a difference for me as I've aged. But as you age into retirement, what are some standards that people should be thinking about for, how much exercise, how do you not overdo it?
Right. Well, 2 times a week, every other day for strength training, or 3, but you need to go every other day. And walking is great, but don't overdo it. Some people are doing a lot of different types of exercise, and if you don't let your body rest, your muscles won't grow back strong. You want them to recover and strengthen. So it's important to find a good balance, and usually I'll kind of interview people that come into the class and say, well, if you do this day, don't do this on the same day. Just balance it out, because you can overdo it at any age, but especially as you get older, in older adults, it takes your body a little more time to recover, and you want to be able to get that muscle and strength.
And that's part of your role, is to develop a program that offers different activities throughout the week.
Yeah.
So you talked about your strength and stretch and your
Strength class.
strength class, but then you've got other classes too that you do.
We do. We have, so we started a circuit class, which is in the Betty Nefsker gym, and it's just a little circuit on the machines, and we time people, and our hope is that we can teach them how to do that circuit on their own, like 30 seconds on the machine and 20 seconds of transition. And then that way, if people aren't comfortable with free weights or a strength class, they can go in and do that in their own time if they don't want to take a class or they're busy. The other classes are seated strength and stretch. And it is just that we stay seated. Mostly we do some standing up, sitting down, and we just kind of get people active with that. And then, of course, Erin does a lot of the aquatics classes. So we have water walk and stretch, aqua. We have a lot of different classes. Aqua aerobics and the Arthritis Foundation aquatics class. And then we also offer Zumba, Zumba Gold, and it's international music, and we just started that a year ago, and the ladies have done well with that. And then they have line dancing, and I think that then another arthritis class with lighter weights on Wednesdays. So
It's quite a variety.
so we offer a variety because there's no one size fits all.
Plus, it allows you to work out different parts of your body at
Absolutely.
different days. So
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to Judy a little bit. And when you were at your own home, if you had wanted to partake in something like this, you would have had to go out and about.
That's correct, and we did for many years. And so the plus of being where we are is that it's just wonderful because you get a sheet every day with what activities are available, and you can take that, and you do not have to get in your car and go anywhere. It's right there. And we've got professional people that know what we need to do and understand our bodies so that we're not hurting ourselves, which is very significant in our age group. And just the feeling of being well it's amazing how you just feel so good. And encourage. Bridget's a great teacher because she encourages us, but she also says, if you can't, don't. She doesn't put you down if, say, you got a little dizzy or you couldn't get your leg up high enough or whatever. Don't worry about that. That's okay. And that's very comforting and very reassuring for people that are trying some of the newer things to do, especially new people that are moving in to try new exercises, yes.
Sure. And so for you and your husband, Warren, you particularly, there are lots of other activities that you do at Mission Ridge that you attribute to lots of wellness. We were just talking about.
I love to. I'm a musician, and I volunteer to play we have devotions every morning at 9 o'clock. And the spirituality is very important to me and my husband in our lives, and having that right there on campus is wonderful. And so I volunteer to play the piano. I also volunteer in the gardens. I love to be outside. In fact, today it was so beautiful. I was out moving rocks and digging weeds, and it felt so good to get out and be outdoors. And there are so many projects and things that you are welcome to volunteer. If you have a particular interest, we have a wonderful library. We have 3 people that volunteer there to take care of putting and shelving books. And we have several people that have the little gardens all around that they take care of. So whatever your interest is outside of our classes, there's lots of fun things to do.
Absolutely. And that social activity is part of wellness as well. And then there's also the intellectual wellness.
Yes.
And, things like classes on, Ukraine.
Yes, just last week we had a professor from MSUB down that told us about the history of the Ukraine, not what's happening right now, but it was a wonderful lecture because I did not know from the 1800s until currently the history and all of the problems that have plagued Ukraine over the centuries, and it was very interesting. We've had visits from the different museums. We've had wonderful, the library has brought in speakers. We've had book clubs, just such a variety of things to keep you intellectually thinking and going and doing. And I think that's really, really important. You can choose to sit in your apartment, I assume, but that wouldn't be any fun. It's much more fun to be out and participating and being with your friends. I told Rachel on our way down, people say to me that are thinking of moving, I don't know anybody. But since we've been here 8 years, I have made several best friends that I didn't even know last year that have moved in, and we have become so close. And people just because you're living in this community, become great friends.
And as you get older, as an adult, it becomes harder and harder to make friends.
It does.
And so the fact that Mission Ridge, the communal nature of the living.
Right, and Mission Ridge kind of evens the playing field, where what we all have in common is our age, and we appreciate each other. I know one lady was very reluctant to come to dinner because she was having some tremor issues, but we all have some issues, and we're all supportive, and we would do nothing but encourage her to come. And I think that is the great leveling among us at our age.
Absolutely. Well, we're running close to the time when we're going to start closing our interview, our conversation here today. And I'd just like to ask you each to tell me what you think makes St. John's unique, a special place. Did you know about St. John's before you worked for St. John's, Bridget? I'll start with you.
I did not. I've heard about it, but I never really thought twice about it until I looked into the CNA program. And I started reading about St. John's, and I thought, what an amazing place. This is a really amazing place, and I just feel like I'm living in a dream. It's such a beautiful place to be. The staff and the residents, I get so inspired every day by these guys. It's amazing for me, and I feel so blessed to be where I am, and it's an amazing place.
Well, I know the organization is so fortunate to have you.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks.
and Judy, what do you think makes St. John's a special place? Because you've been here in the community for a long time, so you knew about St. John's.
Yes, I did. I volunteered at St. John's after I retired from teaching, and I taught music or did sing-alongs for some of the folks. So I was acquainted with St. John's, and I had no other place I would want to go to in this, like we did when we retired and needed to move to another care facility. But people seem to think that, oh, you live in the old folks' home. No, I don't live in the old folks' home. I live in Mission Ridge, and you have to be doggone active to live there to keep up with everybody. And I think that misnomer, for some reason, it attaches to us, and that's not it at all. We have bus services that take us places, to the concerts, to the symphony, to the studio theater, if you want to use them. We have underground parking if you're still driving. There's just so many wonderful things about living in community. We genuinely care about each other. A friend of mine today said, you know, I had knee surgery, and I got 2 beautiful plants. I had get well cards in my little box that we have, and she said, I don't really know those people. I know who they are, but I didn't really know them that well. But that goes back to that caring, living in a caring community.
Absolutely. All right, well, as we do with everybody who comes and visits at What's Your St. John's Story, I'm going to ask you if I ran into you out and about in the community, perhaps on the street or in the grocery store, and I learned that you lived or worked at St. John's, and I said, well, what's your St. John's story? How would you respond? I'll let Bridget go first.
I would just say that I accidentally ended up there. It was a God deal to me, and I have grown as a human being, as a person, more than I ever thought in so many ways, because of my job here, because of the residents. Not even like a job. It is just, it's like going to a family. I've grown so much and learned so much. They teach me so many things. And so I just love being there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And Judy, what would you say your St. John's story is?
My St. John's story to you would be, put your name on the list, because by the time you get around to thinking about moving or doing something different with your life, you're already on the list. And it's so important. When Warren and I decided about making this change, we put our name on the list, And yes, we got called a couple times, but we weren't quite ready. And then we saw a unit that we really liked, and it was like, yes, this is it. But if your name's not on the list and you decide you're going to make a transition, you're going to have to go to the bottom of the list. It's a wonderful place to live. It's a wonderful place to age in place, which we get to do, and to have so many wonderful friends to have meals with and do activities together. I can't begin to tell you how important it's been for us that we made this decision.
And it just proves, both of you prove, how much life there is
Oh, yes.
at St. John's. It is our tagline, so much life to live. And you two are living proof of that.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and sharing your story today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for all that you do to help
Yes.
keep our residents healthy and well. And Judy, thanks for all that you do. You give back so much of yourself to St. John's.
Thank you.
It's appreciated. Well, that is another segment of What's Your St. John's Story. We hope to see you another time, and take care and be well.